Now, some of you might call this cap, but I guarantee you, I woke up yesterday thinking that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is going to score in the FA Cup semi-final. Call it a premonition. Chelsea play Palace at Wembley and emerge 2-0 winners. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is another Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance in the FA Cup semi-final against Crystal Palace. But before I get into all that, fellas, ladies, you know what to do. Please do me a big favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let your friends know about the Couch Critics out there. And if you're a real bad man, you'll hit that bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. Also, I gotta let you know about my sponsor. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Just hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so Chelsea played at Wembley, their second home, against Crystal Palace in the semi-final of the FA Cup and emerged 2-0 winners. Goal scorer Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Banger! What did I say, man? I knew he was going to score. And that was followed up by Mason Mount. What is that, 3-3 right now? Since he got that haircut? I'm telling you, you cannot tell me that looking good, feeling good is not married to playing good on the pitch. Chelsea win 2-0. Now, before I get too much further into this video, I want to let you guys know I apologize for not being able to do the Real Madrid second leg review. I just got hit with that COVID and it just took everything out of me. I had it pretty bad, so was unable to do a video for that particular review, but feeling a lot better now, and going forward, you should be seeing a lot more videos from me. So just keep yourselves posted, keep yourselves tuned in the Couch Critic, and you will be getting lots more footage. But in this match review, you're going to be focusing on three things as we normally do. We're going to be looking at that Rolls Royce on the right, Reece James, his role as a right-sided center back. We're going to be looking at my man of the match, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, in his role as a number 8, but there really is only one place to start, and that is in the midfield again. We're going to be looking at Chelsea's midfield, whether or not that needs to be completely revolutionized coming into the 2022-2023 season, and what components of that midfield need to stay, need to go, and whatnot. Okay, so Chelsea came out in their preferred 3-4-3, which basically played like a 3-4-1-2 with Mason Mount in the hole, and with Jorginho as solo 6, and of course the runner, the shuttler, Kovacic, the most informed midfielder. And what we saw in the very early stages of that game was an aggressive press from Crystal Palace designed to keep Jorginho under large amounts of pressure, and he didn't really handle it that well, to be honest. You saw them coming with 3s and 4s at times, and him just dwelling on the ball a little bit too long, and then eventually turning it over. And, once that happens, they're right into the teeth of the defense. And, you can see Thomas Tuchel on the sidelines was just not happy at all with the way Jorginho was just dwelling on the ball and not making quick decisions. This is his job in the side. The reason why he's so important is because when he's under pressure, he makes good decisions and he gets rid of the ball quickly, whether it be just to recycle it again or just to, break the press. He's usually really good at finding the right pass. But in this particular first half, he was very poor, mightily poor, caught in possession a few times. When he was looking to advance it would be a turnover. And, it was just not his best day out, to be, quite frank. But as he grew into the match and as we got into the second half, you saw a completely different Jorginho, a guy that was back to his best again. And we saw it, we saw him being the conduit, the guy that was able to break the press. Granted, we can say that Crystal Palace weren't really pressing as aggressively as they were in the first half, but for whatever reason, Jorginho was able to grow into the match and give us some of that, general vibe that we weren't getting in the first half. Obviously, with Kovacic having to be subbed off due to injury and Ruben Loftus-Cheek came in, there was a real worry there that Chelsea would not be as stable in the midfield, just because obviously Jorginho in solo 6 is not necessarily the most defensively sound. And with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for all of his quality and technique on the ball, he's not the most defensively aware. So there was a threat there for Chelsea. But, they overcame that quite well. Now, if you ask me, this midfield as a whole has a lot of quality, a lot of ball winners in there, a lot of guys that play with a lot of energy. When you look at the likes of N'Golo Kante, Mason Mount, Kovacic as well, there's a lot of energy there, and also a lot of guys that can recycle possession very well. Same, the likes of Jorginho, Kovacic again, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. There's lots of guys that you can use in specific roles, but what we don't have right now is somebody that can just be the offensive thinker in the final third, and that is sorely missing. I know a lot of guys think that we need like a real dedicated number 6 that can just sit in there and just like break up anything, but when Chelsea's in possession of the football 70% of the time, and we're basically in control of the game for the most part, the one thing that is always missing is the ability to break down teams in the final third. And in the first half of that game, it was just so evident. We had a lot of the ball, we just could not find out anything to do with it. And I love Mason Mount in that role, that number, sort of like number 10, number 8 role, where he's, offensively a number 10 and then defensively more of a number 8. And he's very, very, very good at it. But he's still not, the guy that is the offensive thinker, the guy that is going to like get on the ball, demand the ball, and say, listen, this is what we're doing offensively. Okay, he's not going to dictate the flow of the game with the ball at his feet. He's more of a worker, more of like an Oscar, if anyone remembers Oscar in Chelsea's midfield. He's more of a hard-working number 8, number 10 than he is, a creative number 10. And I think that that's truly what Chelsea are missing right now. Just somebody that can play a little bit deeper if we're playing a 4-3-3 or even this version of a 3-4-1-2, and just be, offensively sound and then also defensively aware. I would say that would be where Chelsea need to be looking. Of course, I don't have the resources that Chelsea have to pinpoint exactly what player they should be targeting, but at the same time, we need to be looking at how we're going to be able to be on the front foot at all times, where we're controlling the ball 60-70% of the time in possession. But when we get the ball, we have to have somebody that can break down teams. And right now we just don't have that. I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek is probably the closest we have to that. But again, he's still not quite giving us what we need in that role. We saw him in the number 8 today, and I thought he was magnificent. But in terms of decision making in the final third, we still lack there. It's been plaguing us the entire season, just somebody that can really, really dictate what we want to do in the final third. That's something for next season. When you look at the midfield that we have right now, I think what we're seeing is accumulation of games. We played a lot of matches. By the time we get to the end of the season, Chelsea are going to be having played 63 of a potential 66, and that doesn't include internationals, where a lot of our midfielders obviously are, the preferred midfielders in their country. So, the likes of Jorginho, Kante getting up there in age, Kovacic obviously are most informed, but when you look at Jorginho and Kante, you have to start thinking about, contract renewals and whatnot, and whether or not keeping both of them is, ideal for a team that is trying to win everything, trying to be in every competition. Ultimately, I think that they still have quality and they can still offer something, but at the same time, we have to start looking at, what the next incarnation of this Chelsea midfield is supposed to look like, and whether or not, a 31-year-old, I believe, N'Golo Kante, who's ran a lot through his career, especially the last 3 or 4 years with Chelsea, and then also, Jorginho, who's played a lot of football this year. Let's be real, a lot of football, and it's definitely taken its toll on him in terms of the jadedness, the sharpness of the mind and whatnot. So what do we do going forward? Do we need to sell on one of these players and bring somebody in that's a little bit younger and able to handle, multiple matches in succession and still give us a 7, 8 out of 10 performance? The likes of Nouman, many have spoken on. I've been banging on about it for a long time. Potentially Declan Rice, who I think price point wise is probably not the most ideal, but if we can get him at a decent number, he might be somebody that could help the midfield liberate the number 8s a little bit more, be more of a defensive sitter in the way that Marquinhos was used in the PSG setup as a defensive midfielder time to time with Tuchel. A midfielder like that seems like it'd be easier to find than finding that sort of dedicated number 8, number 10, who can be defensively aware and also an offensive dynamo, somebody that can score from distance, somebody that can pull all the strings in the midfield. But maybe that's the guy that we have in Gallagher. I mean, he has been playing really, really well for Crystal Palace this year. But having said that, it is Crystal Palace. When the pressure and the stakes are a little bit higher at a club like Chelsea, can he deliver those performances? can he be, the lock picker in, a low block defense? Can he stitch together attacking moves when, the spaces between the defenders are like 3 to 5 meters and there's, a wall of 4 and a wall of 5, can he be that guy? I don't know. I know at Crystal Palace, he's been very good at coming in late in the box and just banging goals. We do need that. But at the same time, we need somebody that's going to be the thinker in offense, the guy that's going to be the one that orchestrates our entire offense. I think we have a lot of midfield quality, but we don't have a lot of variety in terms of how we're going to assemble a midfield, how we're going to break teams down. So that's something to work on in the summer. I really do think that that's where the attention should be, in the midfield, but only time will tell. Now, what I am convinced of, what I've seen the last 3-4 matches, the versatility of Ruben Loftus-Cheek is immense. This guy played Real Madrid as a right-sided midfielder. I mean, you can say wingback. I don't really think he was playing wingback. We were basically just playing right-side midfielder. His responsibility in that role was basically to look after Ferland Mendy, who was basically looking to overlap. And obviously, Vinicius was left to Reece James in that respect. So he's playing more of a wide midfielder, right midfielder role. But we saw him there. We've seen him play in the defensive, the libero role. We've seen him in the midfield as a 6, basically solo 6. We've seen him as an 8 today. And, of all those roles, I think that his most preferred role, and I'm sure you guys would agree with me, is a number 8. The ability to run at teams, to dribble past, use his physicality, his pace, his power to get into the final third. That was all on display today. And to a tremendous effect too, this is what he was brought up to do. I think that the problem we have with Ruben Loftus-Cheek is mainly mental. He has to know that he's one of the best players on the pitch and, play with that sort of confidence. I think that what happens is when he makes a mistake, he just drops his head and he can't get himself back into the game in the right way. But in matches where he's in the ascendancy and he's coming and growing into the match, you really see a fantastic midfielder. And what a goal, what a goal, just coming onto it and just crushing it from outside the box. This is what Ruben is, he's this type of midfielder. If we can get this on a consistent basis, we have a midfielder that can give us quality performances. It's just a shame that he was knocked back by injuries time and time again. And, for different players, it's the recovery period varies. You can't just say, well, he's gone on loan to Fulham and, he got umpteen amount of minutes and that's enough for him to find his football. It's not necessarily true. Some people need more time, need more repetition before they can find their best football. And, we're starting to see, even though he's not played in his preferred role often enough, we're starting to see, again, Ruben Loftus-Cheek start to return to the form that we saw under Maurizio Sarri. Maybe not with the same sort of goals that we've seen, but in terms of his physicality and his ability to shield the ball and get into the final third and bang a goal here and there, that's what we want from him. And that's basically what, Thomas Tuchel is trying to coax out of him. I, for one, think that his career at Chelsea is not over. I think that he's shown enough versatility this year to be a useful piece in this side going forward, whether or not he's an everyday starter or, whether or not he's kind of like the guy that can impact off the bench, give you something different. I still think that he has a role to play at this club, but he really has to now take his career, seriously, take it to the point where any opportunity that he gets to play for Chelsea right now, he has to give us that 8, 9 out of 10 performance, because if he's not entering the thoughts of the manager at this point in his career, regularly, then he's probably not going to be at this club for very long. So, I'm rooting for him. I want Ruben to be in this club. I really think that he has all the potential, all of the tools to be a fantastic midfielder in the Premier League, but he's got to bring it together now. It's now or never for him. Now, one such player that I think Chelsea have who has absolutely nothing more to prove and is of a standard that we haven't seen come out of Cobham since the likes of John Terry is, without question, Reece James. This guy is match after match proving that he is a world-class talent, a guy that can control the right flank, right up and down the pitch. He's a guy that can be influential in the final third and then also in the defensive third play, flawless football, just get everything correct. And I was asking myself at the beginning of the match, why, you look at the setup and you see, Reece James at right center back, where Azpilicueta has played a ton. And you see Azpilicueta at the right wing back position, where Reece James has, basically played himself into world-class form. And, I asked myself the question time and again, as the match grew on, I started to see where the answers were. Because Chelsea were basically defending, man-marking the three attackers between, Eze as a number 10, who was basically all over the pitch, basically trying to find areas to collect the ball and, distribute to the likes of Mateta, who was basically focused on Christensen, a little bit of Rudiger, but mostly Christensen, and Zaha, who was basically, marshaled at an incredible rate to an incredible effect by Reece James. He had nothing. So ultimately what Thomas Tuchel was looking for is for somebody to basically control that right flank, just basically eliminate it, and that was Reece James's role, to allow for, the attackers to be more liberal, to be freer, and not have to worry about defensive responsibility. So you saw the likes of, Mason Mount be liberated. You saw the likes of Kai Havertz come on the right and be liberated. They didn't really have to have a lot of defensive responsibility just due to the fact that, Reece James has controlled that entire flank. And we've seen him do it before. We've seen him do it against Real Madrid as well, where we had Ruben Loftus-Cheek playing the right midfielder role. And, previous to that, we saw him again in that role where we played against Southampton. And again, it's proving to be, another ace in the hole. The fact that Reece James can just completely obliterate our right flank, their left, our right, and completely control it, marshal it. It allows us to be a little bit more free. Basically what you saw is Thomas Tuchel entrusting Reece James to be a defensive stopper on the right, a guy that can control the entire flank, and sacrifice a bit of our offense in order to do so. Because obviously Reece James has proven when you play him on that right, wingback position, he can not only score goals for you, he can set up, he can be an overlapping threat. He's a guy that puts in telling balls, crosses. He did that today anyways, but regardless, we're missing a bit of that when we play him at right center back position. But because he was such a stopper for us, he basically took Zaha, anyone that played on that flank, he took them completely out of the game. That it allowed for Chelsea to be more on the front foot. And in the end, we were able to win 2-0 based on the fact that we didn't really have to worry about, being countered too much, just based on the fact that Reece James, again, was just fantastic, magnificent the entire game. And, he could have got man of the match for me, but for the inclusion of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who obviously was the match winner and, played it flawlessly. I gave Reece James, a very high score. I thought he was at least an 8 out of 10, but for me, the goal scoring of Ruben, how much that was sorely needed at that particular stage in the game, and just his overall quality, I gave him man of the match. But that's not to say that Reece James wasn't a worthy man of the match as well. But I really do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea go to Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final and emerge 2-0 winners against Crystal Palace. Goal scorer Ruben Loftus-Cheek with a banger. And then, of course, the man of the moment right now, Mason Mount, with that haircut looking sharp and clean, scoring another beautiful goal. Love to see it. Chelsea move on to the final where they play Liverpool, a team that I think is going to give us all sorts of problems they have in the past. But this year we've seen only parity between these two teams. We're right there with them. Had we had even just that little bit more luck in terms of health and better refereeing decisions in that Carabao Cup final where Lukaku rightfully scored, who knows where this season would be right now. But there's no doubt that this Liverpool team will be a formidable opposition, and we have to be on our best in order to get this FA Cup and win it. So hoping for that. In the midweek we got Arsenal, and what a calamity they've turned into the last couple weeks and whatnot, where they were challenging for number 3 position, or so they say, and now they've kind of fallen off the top 4 race. So they're going to want to bounce back, but at the same time, Chelsea being a London derby, when I know we're going to want to show assert our dominance against a derby team, another London rival, and I expect to see, if not close to the same performances that we've seen the last 2 or 3 games, then something close to that, because it's going to take that sort of an effort in order to best them once again. And we need this game. This is again a chance to just assert our dominance in London, and really solidify our place in the top 3, and just kick on. Continually to find that good form, to continue to play that good football, as we go into the latter stages of the season. You know, we trust Tuchel. Like, let's look at what Tuchel's done, you know, since he's come to Chelsea. Of all the finals that he's been able to, you know, be manager of, we've gotten to every one of them except for the Champions League final this year, where, you know, even though we didn't get past Real Madrid, the performance in that match shows that Chelsea, when they want to be, are one of the elite teams in Europe, you know, without question. It's just going to come down to whether or not we can find the strength in numbers to carry on these long campaigns. Like I said, Chelsea, by the end of the season, have played 63 of a possible 66 games. And that doesn't include internationals. Of course, we're going into the World Cup here, so this is going to be a really, really important off-season for Chelsea. We're going to have to, you know, obviously address the ownership, but beyond that, they're going to have to hit the ground running and find some players that Thomas Tuchel can use at his disposal, because it's going to be another long season. And, you know, with the way that the squad has been aging the last little while, we certainly need to, you know, replenish and revolutionize that midfield in order to kick on again and reach those heights, you know, challenging for the titles, you know, challenging for these cups again. But fellas, nothing to complain about here. We played really well. We emerged 2-0 winners, and, you know, we're in the FA Cup final right now. But, you know, we have some other things that we need to take care of that don't necessarily cover the on-pitch performances. But, you know, I expect the club to do that. But for us, what we need to do is keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chelsea. Peace.